Man, today's been incredible. The sun's shining and the 60s are pouring, and despite Colors Ultimate being a pretty bad port, my sanity's still trucking. I think to celebrate, I'm gonna play some good old Sonic Adventure 2. That's odd. Usually I'm always having fun playing this game, but now all I want to do is not play it. Maybe I should just play some Unleashed. The fuck has happened to me? Am I becoming normal? I can't become normal now. I'm too orange to have regular hobbies. I'm gonna have to figure this out, and fast.
2 hours later.
I got it. I'll just play Sonic games until I like the series again. Despite what it looks like, I've never always been a Sonic fan. Instead, before I took a turn for the worst, I loved Mario games. I would play Mario 64 and Mario 1 all the time on the Virtual Console, and New Super Mario Bros. Was fucking peak fiction there for a bit. I just could not get enough of Galaxy either. So with all this in mind, when I discovered YouTube, I had to watch Mario stuff. I watched every single Mario's Castle Calamity. This one video where Mario goes in a pipe and then comes out of a toilet with shit on him, a ton of plush videos, top 10s, and game theory. Thanks to MatPat not understanding that Mario stepping on Luigi's shoe doesn't make him evil, I discovered some Sonic theories of his. Now, at the time I really didn't know who Sonic was, but man, I wanted to. He looks so unbelievably cool, and my dad knew this too, which is why he ruined my life and hooked up a Genesis to show me. This was a big moment for me. While I couldn't beat Chemical Plant Zone, I had a blast. So what did I do? I started wasting my life. Instead of starting with Sonic 2 though, let's crank it back a year. Sonic the Hedgehog was a character created by Naoto Oshima to be Sega's new mascot to replace Alex Kidd in an internal contest, yada yada yada, you know how the story goes. But instead of looking at it from a rich Japanese company's perspective, let's look at it from a kid in the 90s perspective. It's 1991, and you're watching The Simpsons on your floral couch when you see a commercial for a new console called the Sega Genesis. You aren't really interested for the first second because some fat guy is being stupid, but then you notice a Super Nintendo and another console. Now at first you're probably just thinking this is an ad for Mario World or something, but then the kid behind the camera starts to show more interest in the Genesis, with none other than Sonic 1. The ad very obviously wants you to buy a Genesis, with a few points being that Sonic is really cool and the Genesis costs less. This really captivates you as you initially wanted an SNES, but you quickly change sides and a few months later, you have a Genesis. It's honestly a little crazy to think about just how big Sonic and Sega were, even trumping Mario and Nintendo for some people. Now, how did I get into Sonic 1 at first? Well, none other than the Sonic Classic Collection for the DS. It was actually a pretty decent package. It was just a very simple collection of Sonic 1, 2, 3, and Knuckles, and a couple pieces of art. If you want to get someone into Sonic, this really isn't the worst option out there. Anyway, moving on to the game. My god, this game makes such a fantastic first impression. Everything about Green Hill Zone is just perfect. There's so many places to mess around with Sonic speed, a ton of enemies to jump on, and loops to breeze through. There's a good reason Green Hill is used so much in Sonic games. It's a really good zone. I can't wait to see what the rest of the zones have to offer. Green Hill Zone makes a really good first impression, but it's gonna take a little more to qualify this as a good game, and the rest is bad. Yeah, after Green Hill Zone, Sonic 1 starts to take more of a platforming-oriented approach, with the exception of Spring Yard. They're all decent, but they feel really weird being in the same game as Green Hill. There's the painfully slow and tedious Marble Zone, the slow and terrifying Labyrinth Zone, the bullshit of Scrap Brain, and the other two kinda good zones, Spring Yard and Starlight. After Green Hill, we're dumped straight into Marble Zone. If you played Sonic 1 as a little kid, chances are you got through Green Hill, had fun, went to Marble Zone, reset, and then played Green Hill again. That was my experience for the longest time until about a month ago. Yeah, Marble Zone takes the approach of making you wait, and wait, and wait some more. It's got some really cheap spots, and some are an absolute slog. It doesn't help that each zone's 3 acts too, so it feels like you're just waiting here for hours. Some parts feel like they're gonna get good, and then BAM! More waiting. There's also a lot of block pushing, which... why? Why would you put Green Hill in front of this? After witnessing the atrocity of Marble Zone, we're flung straight into Spring Yard Zone. The zone mainly relies on springs, but it does strike a good balance between those and this. It does have its fair share of sections that make you wait for a little bit, but it's not really as bad as what I had to endure in Marble Zone. And if you know what you're doing here, it's a fucking trip. I'd honestly say it managed to capture the feeling that I got while playing Green Hill Zone in some way. The zone also kind of did the Spring Zone thing before casino stages, which is pretty fucking cool. The next zone also pioneered the Sonic staple. Bullshit! Yeah, Labyrinth Zone is pretty infamous for how bad it is. So many playthroughs of the game ended right here. I would know, I've quit here plenty of times. This is the first out of many Sonic water levels, and this was a pretty interesting thing to do. So what's the big problem with Labyrinth Zone, you'd ask? These stupid-ass spikes, Sonic being painfully slow underwater, that part that leaves you waiting for something to happen with no indication that you're supposed to be doing something, these stupid fuckers and these dumbass fireballs! Background and the music are pretty nice, though. I don't know, man, there's just so much about Labyrinth Zone that doesn't add up. I can kinda understand the slight misstep of Marble Zone, but Sonic Team had a really good thing going this Spring Yard and just slipped in a puddle of their own piss. Thankfully, instead of continuing to roll in their own piss, Sonic Team decided they would do something worthwhile and created Starlight Zone. Can you believe it? A zone that mixes kind of fun platforming and speed. No waiting for the next block, no going underwater, no block pushing, just a decently fun Sonic level. I can safely say that I enjoy a Sonic 1 zone that isn't Green Hill. Yeah, it has its fair share of what the fuck moments, but doesn't every stage in a video game have at least one minorly annoying thing? Don't get me wrong, Starlight absolutely doesn't excuse the other bullshit this game has to offer, but I'll be damned if I admit this is a bad stage. It has everything a perfect Sonic stage needs, but it was just stuck in this game. For every slow-paced section, there's a fast-paced section. For every bomb, there's a loop. It's just a fair, fun, balanced zone. So it's a good thing that Scrap Brain Zone is terrible, right? But now you've probably noticed a pattern. One good/decent zone, and then one awful one. It especially doesn't help that each zone has 3 goddamn acts, which just makes the bad ones drag. So why am I talking about this instead of Scrap Brain? I personally believe that this is, without a doubt, one of the worst things to come out of a Sonic game to date. Starts out simple enough, you think it won't be bad, and then BAM! Bullshit strikes. After getting crushed once or twice, you'll probably get the hang of it, but then there's some minor inconveniences after that, and there's a good chance you're gonna get stuck down here and have to wait for your death, and shit like this continues like the saw, these platforms, and that annoying ass song until you're dropped down to a Labyrinth Zone section that's as Labyrinth Zone as it could get. Before the final zone. I'm not even exaggerating, it's just called Final Zone. The zone really is not that special, and it really just serves as a place for the final fight with Robotnik, which makes it stranger that they didn't just tack down a Scrap Brain. The fight isn't all that exciting either. It's just the same 2 loop of these cylinders coming down, one having Robotnik in it, jumping at the correct one, dodging balls of electricity. And after doing this 8 times, the area explodes and Sonic makes a mad dash to Green Hill and jumps in the air to point the player. There's an alternative ending if you have every Chaos Emerald, but all that happens is Sonic looking at the emerald as they rise and does the same jump. I've never grabbed every Chaos Emerald before, so I've never saw the point in doing something that you look at for 2 seconds. It doesn't help that the Chaos Emerald stages in this game are horrible. They have Sonic in a ball that you can't really control, and the stage is constantly spinning. The goal is to make your way to the Chaos Emerald and trying to snag it while not hitting the exit balls, but after the first 2, I end up giving up and having just too much trouble on the rest to care. In the other games I like to grab the emeralds, but I think the exception for this game is justified. Well, that was Sonic 1. I know I didn't have a lot to say, but there isn't really a whole lot more I could say since, honestly, I don't really like this game. Wow, who could have thought? It's just too mediocre for me to care about it as much as Sonic 2 and 3. If I did care about it, I would praise this game to no end. Well, with that being said, let's move on to a game I do like, Sonic 2. In the 1-year gap from Sonic 1 and 2, Sonic the Hedgehog became a global phenomenon. Everybody knew who Sonic was, and if you weren't sticking by the Super Nintendo in the console wars, you could not get enough of Sonic. Now, personally, I never really understood why people gave a shit about Sonic when all they had was the first game, but it could have had something to do with the attitude and design of the character. So not only did they have a team working on a Sonic game for the Sega CD, which, trust me, doesn't exist, I checked thoroughly, but another team's hard at work on the next good entry in the series, Sonic the Hedgehog 2. They completely ditched the idea of having slow zones and prioritized making it even funner to go fast. This time, Sonic also has a new friend to explore all 11 zones with, named Miles Tails Prower. He's a two-tailed fox that has a knack for fixing things and hit it off extremely fast with Sonic. He also taught Sonic the Spin Dash, which allows you to get a burst of speed and destroy every enemy in your path. The Chaos Emeralds also received an upgrade too with an extra emerald added, but we can go over that later. Unlike Sonic 1, Sonic 2 has a little bit of story. Instead of just wanting to turn animals into robots, Dr. Robotnik's looking to fuck up everyone's day by collecting all 7 Chaos Emeralds to power his Death Star ripoff, the Death Egg. It isn't much, but I do appreciate having a real threat other than weak animals in a shitty robot suit. When the game starts, we're dropped into Emerald Hill Zone. It's way more vibrant, I feel like there's more to do, and it's just overall a much more interesting version of Green Hill. They didn't even have to make it take place across 3 acts to be good. Unfortunately, if you play the game like I did this run, you may not enjoy Emerald Hill so much. Remember when I said we can talk about the emeralds later? Well, that time is now. You see, instead of having to go through a giant ring at the end of the stage and puking, you have to collect 50 rings, jump into a checkpoint, and are brought into a half pipe. It sounds simple enough. You're tasked with grabbing a certain amount of rings to progress, and at the end of each one, you earn a Chaos Emerald. The only problem is that if you want Tails to tag along through each zone, he comes to the special stages with you. It isn't that big of a deal at the start of them since they're pretty easy, but when you get to the later ones, which are hard enough with Sonic, and then you throw Tails into the mix, my whole neighborhood's woken up. Fuck you, Sonic! So why don't I just casually pick up emeralds throughout the game like a normal person? Well, it just so happens that you can grab every single one in Emerald Hill, which, let me tell you, makes the rest of the game a lot better if you can just have them and not have to worry about it. And when you do get them all, this may not seem like much by itself, but when comparing it to Sonic 1, Super Sonic is definitely worth it. He's so fucking fun and cool. The way his spines get bigger and how he turns yellow, it just all amps up Sonic's cool factor by a lot. The only downside is needing to collect rings to keep it, but that isn't much of an issue. Now that I have the best thing in the game, let's move on to the second zone, Chemical Plant. I've never had that good of a history with Chemical Plant. It stopped me from experiencing Casino Night Zone for the longest time, and it did with many other people too. Whether it was a stupid part where the platform spins upside down or drowning in the pink water, a lot of people have had trouble with Chemical Plant. But despite all the issues, I really like this place. The music makes you want to see a hedgehog run. There's a decent amount of sections that give you speed for the sake of making you get excited, but I don't really mind that. I mean, just think about it for a second. What are you doing to earn speed in those sections? Going right? Besides, there's parts that make you do things like running past these spiders or not drowning. Alright, fine, this zone's piss easy. Thankfully, the heat is turned up a little bit for the third zone, Aquatic Ruin. You're given 2 choices here. You can either A, prioritize platforming to keep the high ground, or B, go through the water and have to prioritize grabbing air bubbles so you don't drown. Other than my inability to be good at Sonic games, I really do enjoy Aquatic Ruin. It has this weird parallax scrolling thing which looks pretty cool, and the setting is really interesting compared to its Sonic 1 counterpart. It just really feels like you're exploring ruins when you're down here with these broken pillars. It beats having a spring-filled area that we're supposed to believe exists on an island. The boss is kind of a letdown though. You can easily beat it by jumping on the pillar as it rises and then coming back to it after you jump on him. Next up though, we have one of the best zones in the classic Sonic trilogy, Casino Night. This is perfection. It doesn't say cope anywhere, but god, it's so good that we still see casino zones in Sonic games. All of them are fine, excluding Forces. But Casino Night is the best by far. There's plenty of spots to grind for rings, lose your rings, cry yourself to sleep, and get your rings back. I do feel like the zone relies a little too much on these spring launchers at the start though. They don't really add much, and I'd like a little less of them. It also has way too many sections where you just wait for blocks to get out of the way, but thankfully they don't take too much time. You can get right back to the speed. Regardless, blasting through here is always going to be great. Before we talk about Hilltop Zone, I think it's fair that I just go over what I think makes a good Sonic zone. To be a good zone, you have to have 2 things. It needs to feel like a lived-in place that people in the game's world know about, isn't just a floating platform in the sky, but it also needs to have pure speed mixed with decently challenging platforming. That being said, what the fuck is Hilltop Zone, man? This doesn't feel like a goddamn hilltop, it feels like a mountaintop with how high you are. But even then, can I really even call this a mountain? The material looks like it's made out of something that someone put there instead of actually being a natural fucking mountain. Second of all, this is some of the most mind-numbing platforming ever. There are entirely too many of these hanging platforms you have to wait on, and the only mildly interesting thing the zone has to offer are these seesaws, but even then, that's such a basic idea that I don't really care. Not to mention, you don't even get to go that fast in this zone, and you're mostly just trying to escape the lava and the occasional slope happens. I cut the other zones more slack because they had those kick-ass moments where you're going fast and having fun. It's honestly a shame. I think the Hilltop could have been done better. Hell, I'd go as far as saying that's the best track in the entire game, which is really saying something since most of the songs are really good. Since I just got done bashing Hilltop, you're probably expecting me to shit all over Mystic Cave, seeing as it's slower than Hilltop, right? Actually, no. I think that being slow works for Mystic Cave in a way. Unlike Hilltop, the slowness of the zone really works in its favor. Obviously, it isn't the most complex thing ever, but it does make sense to not be running the lightning speeds in a place like this. Of course you have a few parts that require speed, but typically you're just going to do things, make other things happen, so on and so forth. The music feels very different too. Instead of a song that makes you want to go fast, it makes it feel like you're exploring in a cave, and you really are. At the end there's an admittedly underwhelming Robotnik fight, with the only real challenge being dodging these spikes. After that, we save the animals and we can move on to Oil Ocean. But before we move on to that, let's have a word from our sponsor, talk about Hidden Palace Zone. While Sonic 2 was being developed, a lot of zones were scrapped due to just not having enough time to put them in. One of these was Hidden Palace Zone. You would drop down here in Mystic Cave, and then you would get to see a whole one-act zone with a boss at the end. It was a really cool idea that should have been in the game, but thankfully we ended up getting it in 2013 thanks to the mobile port of the game. This is a really good port of the game. It has widescreen support, save files, you can choose Sonic, Tails, or Knuckles easily, and best of all, the return of Hidden Palace. Honestly, the zone isn't that special, but the fact that it ended up returning at all is still really cool. Just a shame we never got Wood Zone back. But out of every zone that was scrapped, I think it's fair to say that Oil Ocean making the cut is pretty weird. Hell, it's even weirder that it made the cut in Sonic Mania. The name itself is pretty self-explanatory. It's a Oil Ocean. I don't really know what else to say. There's a good amount of oil slides, elevators, and cannons. There's a surprising amount of speed sections for a zone like this too, and instead of typical springs, you have to push them back so they can send you flying, which I don't really like all too much, since regular springs can exist in your oil too. The boss is insanely easy if you just hang out down here until he comes up so you can wail on him. The Mania version is way better, since you actually get to see these octopus robots throughout the zone, so having a big one at the end just makes sense. Well, there's only one main zone to go. Honestly, this game is way better than I remember. Yeah, there's a couple bad zones, but I think every Sonic game has a few bad ones thrown in there. That being said, let's dive into Metropolis Zone. Okay, so I understand having the last main level be challenging, but my god, could they tone it down a bit? Most of the stuff that's considered hard is stuff that's less hard and more fucking bullshit. There's so many enemies that are almost impossible to not get hit by, and starfish that are pretty easy to dodge unless you're on a fucking corkscrew. Oh yeah, I should probably mention the biggest flaw of this place. It's 3 acts! There was such a good thing going, why did they have to ruin it? After slogging through all 3 acts, you're graced with the stupidest Robotnik fight in the game. All he does is spin little Robotniks around and make you hit him until they're all gone, and then he pulls out a laser. This fight is tolerable, but after the shit I just went through, it's pretty underwhelming. To fully process the dumpster fire that was Metropolis, the next zone, Sky Chase, is just a plane ride with a couple enemies to bounce on, leading to the next one-act zone, Wing Fortress. I've always had a soft spot for Wing Fortress. It brings a fair and fun challenge that you can't really find anywhere else in Sonic 2. And as per usual, the fight with Eggman is nothing special, but instead of another animal capsule to open, Eggman hauls ass to his rocket ship, just barely leaving Sonic in the dust until Tails makes himself useful and flies Sonic up to the rocket where he grabs onto it and is brought into space! Eventually, Sonic and Eggman land on the battlefield for the game's final fight, the Death Egg. Death Star ripoff or not, the Death Egg is so fucking cool. Hell, even in Forces it looks nice. And then again, a lot of stuff looks nice in Forces, since that's what most of the game's development time went to. Anyway, back to Sonic 2. We start off with not the Doctor himself, but a robotic Sonic named Silver Sonic. At first, this fight is a pain because you don't get any rings throughout the entire zone, but once you figure it out, it's not that bad. I find the best way is to start off with getting a few spin dashes in at the start, getting hit a few times after he tries to spin dash at you, quickly getting in the middle of arena so he jumps over you, and then one more hit you take care of it. After chasing Robotnik out of his control room, he jumps into his giant robot suit, the Death Egg robot. This fight! Pretty fucking easy. I used to have a lot of trouble with it, but now that I have a strategy and more patience, I can make quick work of it. You can pretty much just get a hit in whenever he's about to launch, but you should never try to do it when he's in the air. After he shoots his arm, you can get another one in, but then you can always get a free hit after every other landing. Wasting no time, as soon as Tails sees the explosion, he jumps into the tornado and flies up to it so he can catch Sonic. If he collected all 7 Chaos Emeralds, he still does, but with less reason since Super Sonic flies down himself. After letting the flickies you've saved join, Sonic and Tails fly towards the player for a pose depending on whatever ending you got. And that's pretty much all that Sonic 2 has to offer other than the 2-player competition mode that stretches out the screen. While it doesn't really have a lot to do outside of playing it over and over again as Sonic or Tails, I'll always have a soft spot for Sonic 2. Sure, the bosses are pretty easy and a couple zones aren't the best, but at the end of the day, it's just a fun, fast-paced platformer that builds on the foundation of the first game laid out. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 was a huge success, selling 6 million copies and having its own day entitled Sonic Tuesday since the game came out on Tuesday. The game was not as big of a success as Sonic 1, but 6 million is nothing to scoff at for a game as fantastic as this. Sonic 3 is still better though. After Sonic 1 released, the franchise was massive. After Sonic 2, it still attracted a wide audience, but it wasn't as big as the first game. Either way, Sonic was still an icon that everyone talked about. But I think it's fair to say that when Sonic 3 came out, it was just big fans of the series that were playing this game. It's a damn shame too, Sonic 3 is a masterpiece that deserves to be played by everybody. The game never had a dull moment, each zone is great, there's level transitions, save files, a full albeit basic story, even better level theming than Sonic 2. But why is this? Well, every bad zone was put into Sonic and Knuckles. I'm not gonna go over the whole thing because it's pretty common knowledge, but basically Sega feared angering McDonald's and the game was split into two. To make up for this though, you were able to connect Sonic and Knuckles to Sonic 3 for the seamless and complete experience. You could even play as Knuckles in Sonic 2 if you connected the cartridge to Sonic 2. While it's still nice, Sonic 3 is really short with only 6 zones. Sonic and Knuckles only has 3 main ones, which gives Sonic 3 and Knuckles 9. Despite it being pretty short though, I've always loved this game, and so have a lot of other Sonic fans. Every chance we get will preach the true genius of Sonic 3 and Knuckles. It really is the pinnacle of 2D Sonic. That being said though, let's get started. Alright, let me explain. I do not own a copy of Sonic and Knuckles. I don't want to. I also bought 3 and K on Steam, but it never works for some reason. I'm not opening and closing Sonic 3 and Sonic and Knuckles 20 times each. But most importantly, it's the same damn game, who cares? Nothing is different than playing on a Genesis other than being in a widescreen, so I could honestly care less. Okay, now let's start the damn game. After Sonic blew up the Death Egg, it landed on Angel Island, where Robotnik came across the last member of the Echidna tribe, Knuckles. There, he tricked him into thinking Sonic was planning on stealing the Master Emerald. Since it's Knuckles' job to protect the Emerald, he's pissed off and hides in the bushes waiting for Sonic's arrival. Meanwhile, after Tails catches Sonic on the tornado in Sonic 2, they notice something's up and head to Angel Island to investigate. Wanting to dick around with his new super form, Sonic decides to go ahead of Tails and is knocked upside the head by Knuckles and hit Sonic so hard that the Chaos Emeralds fell out of him. Before Sonic has the chance to get up, Knuckles steals the emeralds and hauls ass out of there, leaving Sonic to have to explore the first zone, Angel Island. Everything about this place is genuinely brilliant. The way that secrets are hidden, making you want to explore off the beaten path, how Tails joins you when you get back on your feet, how the zone goes up in flames, all of it is incredible. Going fast, while not much different from Sonic 2, feels even better in 3. Another thing that feels better in Sonic 3, but not by a lot, are the special stages. Instead of having to get 50 rings and jump into the checkpoint, now you're encouraged to explore those zones to find the big rings and complete the Blue Sphere stages. They are so much more manageable than the half pipe since you don't have a time limit, but if you touch a red sphere, you lose and can't get the Chaos Emerald until you find another big ring. The only problem with Blue Sphere is that after a bit my eyes start hurting from playing it, but if you know what you're doing and get in and get out fast, it shouldn't be that much of an issue. Checkpoints even have a new purpose. If you have 50 rings and jump into it, you can go to a bonus stage for elemental shields to allow Sonic to do different things, and you can also get lives or rings. Back to Angel Island, you can get about half the Chaos Emeralds here if you just take your time and check every nook and cranny. It's really fun considering just how nice it is to soak in the area. It's especially fun after the island starts burning, since now it feels like a whole new place to explore while still being in Angel Island. A little while after, the act ends and there's no transition. Nothing. You just pick up right there. It's such a simple thing, but that alone sells the idea that Sonic is actually exploring an island. The rest of the act is pretty much the same as Act 1, but then you have to dodge these missiles from the air shape, except it's impossible in Sonic 3 Air for some reason, but in the Genesis version you don't even have to try. And that's really the only good part of the boss though, is it's insanely easy to beat Robotnik at the end. Wasting no time, Sonic pushes forward where he meets a dead end, until Knuckles decides to be a fucker and destroy the bridge. Thankfully, he accidentally helped a brother out and we can go on to Hydro City Zone. And man, wow. A full-ass city underground that's partially flooded is such a cool concept. This zone really takes advantage of having some of it underwater by introducing enemies that can't do shit to Sonic's new bubble shield that makes being underwater bearable and gives you a funny looking bounce. They actually managed to make water traversal fun too. There's also a ton of these slides that make you go insanely fast. The sequence where you have to escape this wall is fun too, and the boss, while easy, looks really cool, and I love how the wall breaks when you beat him. Overall, Hydro City, not Hydrocity, is a stellar place to be even if it doesn't bring a challenge. Thankfully, the game starts to ramp up the difficulty in the next zone, Marble Garden. I think it would be an understatement to say exploring here is fun, because it's really fun. And trust me, I know I have hammered in the word fun a lot here. And I really do mean it. Knowing which route to take in this admittedly confusing zone to get the big rings is kinda weird, but it works. But even when you're lost and just running around not knowing what to do, it's still amazingly fun. Having my intelligence insulted has been a staple of this series from Sonic 1 to Forces, so having a little bit of that Sonic bullshit brings just a tiny bit more charm to the zone. And obviously that's not the only great part of Marble Garden though, this is one of the best settings in the entire game, hell the whole series. I love how steep so much of it is. The walls are broken on the ends because they're supposed to be ruins, and everything sells the place as being just that. And despite having so many steep slopes, the platforming here is incredible and satisfying to pull off. A good amount of platforming and more complex things are introduced in Act 2, like pulleys and these awkward spinning tops. Sometimes they'll shoot you in a direction which you didn't mean to go, and that just makes it feel like it's messed up. I actually did it on purpose so you go the correct direction, and I'm just really stupid, but what else do y'all mean to think? It's a fucking Genesis game. At the end of the zone, we're treated with a really cool boss fight for once. This one takes place in the sky with Tails carrying Sonic so he can bounce onto Robotnik. There aren't that many ways to get hit if you're careful, and when you fall below the screen, Tails comes back and picks you up. Now, while the fight is easy, it was where a lot of my Sonic 3 playthroughs ended as a little kid. I would see what was going on and just shut off my DS as soon as I saw what was going on and feared that I'd keep falling until I got a game over. After facing 6-year-old Shrimp's biggest fear, Sonic and Tails fly straight into the 4th zone, Carnival Night. I don't really know how to describe Carnival Night other than the fact that I get a strange feeling of happiness from it. It feels much more like a Sonic 2 zone in that it feels much more linear, but honestly I kinda like that. Not every zone should be this big, sprawling area. Some just need to be pure linear speed so you can appreciate the more open-ended ones more. Or maybe I'm stupid and stopped exploring after I got all the Chaos Emeralds. The only seriously bad part here is these stupid-ass barrels. I've known what to do for a long time, but I can never get it quite right. It's so weird, you have to have this very consistent rate of pressing up and down. The rest of the zone is insanely simple. Act 2 has some water for some reason, and the boss is genuinely laughable. Look at this shit. After the first boss of Kirby Star Allies, Sonic and Tails come across the cannon that shoots them to Ice Cap? I've always thought that zone transition felt very forced. That's because it was. Before the game was split into two, Flying Battery was actually supposed to come before Ice Cap, and you would just bust down the door and then fly down the mountain on it. That was a much better way to do things. I don't know why they didn't keep the original zone order. Bitching aside, the entirety of Ice Cap is cool as hell. After snowboarding down the mountain, Sonic hits a wall and falls into this massive ice cave. I could probably spend hours just exploring Ice Cap if it was much bigger. At this point in the Sonic series, it really is not that common for Sega to do something like this, and they executed it perfectly. Sadly though, you only get to explore the ice cave for one act and then you make it back up. Just kidding, you go right back down 15 seconds into Act 2, hell yeah! But it's far less confusing and more just a straight shot from there. And then you get shot right back up for the last part, which is just bouncing until you reach the top of the mountain to fight yet another laughable boss. After bullying Robotnik some more, the furries find themselves in the last Sonic 3 zone, Launch Base. Launch Base zone is seriously perfect in every way. I love how the Death Egg is visible for a bit, being worked on so it can go back to space later in the game. Pretty soon though, you head inside a building, and once you get out, you can't really see it anymore. Now your entire goal is just to stop that thing from being usable again. The rest of Act 1 is fairly mellow in the grand scheme of things until Knuckles throws a bomb in the base that's supposed to help him, and then there's an easy boss fight, boom, next act. Act 2 primarily takes place in the sky and is just a mad dash towards the arena. It's not necessarily hard, but then again a lot of Sonic zones aren't because of how easy it is to grab your rings again after getting hit. Anyhow, we arrive to the arena by stealing Robotnik's ride and making Knuckles break his limbs. The sky goes dark. The music changes to a track that makes you go, oh shit! And then Robotnik comes in with this big robot with humongous hands that can slam you on the ground. He swoops down a bunch and you get to him and it's so cool! Fight's over. If I was a kid in the 90s beating him in Sonic 3, I'd be pissed. Especially if I had no idea that Sonic and Knuckles was coming. The ending's fine in Sonic 3, but yeah, it just feels incomplete and there's no other way to put it. All that happens is Sonic and Tails looking off in the distance as the Death Egg crashes once again. In Sonic 3 and Knuckles, though, the same thing happens, except Sonic and Tails slowly fall in the Mushroom Hill zone. Mushroom Hill is a very odd zone. As a starting zone in Sonic and Knuckles, it feels like a weird pick, and in Sonic 3 and Knuckles, it just feels like whatever. The only kind of major thing here is going down the left at the beginning to introduce the Super Emeralds. I've honestly never seen the point of getting these. As someone whose eyes start to hurt whenever he plays the normal Chaos Emerald stages, I just don't care enough. It's not even like they give you a different ending either. All it does is let you have Hypersonic, Super Tails, and Super Knuckles. All are things I just don't care about. Mushroom Hill is mainly just a place to grab the Super Emeralds, and it's honestly really boring for that. If I had to say that zone does one thing cool, it'd be the colors of the leaves change in Act 2, but that's it. Other than that, I guess the part where Sonic clings onto the Flying Battery is pretty cool. Now, if I'm being brutally honest with you, Flying Battery is the best zone in Sonic and Knuckles. Which is good, but is that really an achievement? The zone is typically fast-paced, but has some slower sections to balance things out. It's actually one of the few times this game has a mildly interesting Act 1 boss. And I actually died a few times from just blazing through the place, which I appreciate. A game like this should always keep you on your toes when you choose to do that. I actually like the boss too this time. It's pretty difficult, mainly because I can't stop laughing at the sprite. Once you get past that, the fight is so boring. You just wait for him to do his thing and occasionally get a few hits on him. The transition's pretty rough too. Sonic and Tails just hop out of the battery and landed— OH GOD! Somehow Sonic Team made a Sonic 3 zone on the same level as the stuff we saw in Sonic 1. That zone, of course, is Sandopolis. Now, in concept, it sounds fine. In fact, Act 1's pretty decent. A lot of the stuff here is fairly mellow and introduces bouncing off walls. The mini-boss is also the easiest boss I've ever fought in the game, honestly. All you have to do is wait for it to jump into the quicksand and then you move on to Act 2. Maybe the mini-boss was so easy to prepare me for this shit. Act 2 is hell! The main gimmick is turning on the lights so the ghosts don't get you, which is the stupidest thing I have ever heard of. You also need to push these blocks to open paths, but they don't last too long and you need to be extra quick if you want to get through in time. Not to mention the weird-ass boss here. It's just a nothing fight that I'm more relieved to be done with than anything. Now, it doesn't necessarily sound like a terrible zone, but honestly, having to worry about keeping the lights on completely ruins it for me. That's such a dumb thing to have to worry about in a Sonic game of all things. Without being held back by the gimmick, this would actually be a pretty decent act, and it's a shame it had to be this way. Enough whining though, let's move on to peak fiction. You ever want to see a blue dude fall? Perfection. Lava Reef is so fucking kick-ass. It's one of the 2 Sonic and Knuckles zones I actually find myself having a good time in. Taking my time to explore this place is so relaxing, especially in Act 2 when all of the lava is gone. Of course, I still blast through here sometimes, but soaking in the place is truly great. Both acts perfectly mix, letting you get lost here and just letting you blast through it. Some of the new things this zone introduces, like these spinning cylinders and spin dash elevators, are pretty ingenious despite not lasting that long, and that's what I like about this place. It feels like hardly anything lasts forever, and the stuff that occurs throughout the act is stuff that actually makes sense to be an ongoing thing. The boss too, it isn't very tough, but shit, you can't tell me this isn't impressive for the Genesis. Feels like something we'd see now in modern games, but no, it's a game from 1994. Hell, every set piece in the game looks incredible. The only games I can think of comparing it to are Shovel Knight and Tropical Freeze. The backgrounds in those games are fantastic, and Shovel Knight is supposed to be more like an NES game. Before I start rambling about Shovel Knight, let's talk about some truly mind-boggling shit. That shit is Hidden Palace Zone. Not the one we saw in Sonic 2, but a better one. While Lava Reef excels in atmosphere, Hidden Palace perfects storytelling without a single word. It starts in a room with springs on the end to propel Sonic further and further up. Eventually, he makes his way to a teleporter, bringing him to an arena for a brawl with his rival Knuckles. After all this asshole puts Sonic through in the adventure, Sonic makes quick work of him. And I mean quick too, he has 3 basic attacks that can be easily dodged. After being put in his place, Knuckles along with Sonic and Tails notice that something's up where the Super Emeralds and Master Emeralds are located. The gang finds Robotnik taking the Master Emerald with his claw to finally go through with his plans. Knuckles shouts what I can only assume is slurs at him after realizing Sonic and Tails were good this entire time and latches onto the emerald in a desperate attempt to not let Robotnik have it. He even lets himself get shocked. Protecting this emerald is his one job, so no matter the cost, Knuckles will always do what's best for it. Except when he goes and dicks around like in Lost World. Now a trio of Knuckles on their side, the gang falls into a pit where a door is blocked off. After Knuckles gains consciousness, he thinks of a solution and smirks to Sonic before punching the wall, allowing him to pass. With little energy left, Knuckles guides Sonic and Tails to one of their last stops on this journey, Sky Sanctuary. Before regaining his energy, he presses another switch, finally sending Sonic and Tails off to finish the fight. Now, it doesn't look like much, but man, it's insane to think this is a game from 1994. Up to this point, you know that Robotnik's bad and you get to kick his ass to see something at the end, but now we're telling a full story and finishing this arc that was set up in Sonic 2. This will probably always be one of my favorite Sonic moments, right beside Tails beating Eggman by himself on Sonic Adventure and the fight with Gaia Colossus in Sonic Unleashed. Sky Sanctuary itself is a great zone too, it's a shame it only lasts 1 act. It's so good that it's the zone to represent Sonic 3 and Knuckles in Generations instead of opting to do something like Angel Island or Carnival Night. It doesn't even bring a ton to the table of gimmicks either. The clear goal to make your way to the Death Egg is enough to make you going top speed satisfying enough. There's even a callback to the very first fight from the series, but now with the new and improved Mecha Sonic. It's not much of a fight, but it makes me want to push through and destroy every egg robo I see while pursuing the Death Egg. After the trek to the top, Sonic and Tails find another teleporter, bringing them to a completely new version of the Silver Sonic fight from Sonic 2, but now with the aid of rings and the Insta-Shield. After the final blow, he starts to malfunction and sits down in a defeated state. There's no time to waste though, as the Sanctuary is falling and Sonic and Tails have to haul ass to the top of the fortress, with stairs falling behind them. When they reach the top, they just barely cling onto the Death Egg, finally giving us a full-fledged zone at this place instead of 2 bosses, and oh my god, this is so cool! The backdrop makes this place feel insanely massive. The zero-gravity mechanics work wonderfully, and it's not too fast, but that really shouldn't work with what they're going with for Act 1. The mid-zone boss looks dope as shit. You can see the planet in Act 2 and run on the ceiling. The only part that sucks is the Act 2 boss. It's such a weird concept and takes forever to beat. Other than that, it's pretty much perfect. For a final zone in a trilogy, it brings a decent amount of challenge that I can respect. Having the entire fucking Earth in the background for Act 2 seriously sells the space theme better than Sonic 2 did, although I really like the way that game handled it. Anyway, after the annoying-ass Act 2 boss, Robotnik hauls ass to his new and improved Death Egg robot, now with big fingers. This fight is such a pain in the ass. The first phase has the robot trying to crush you with his fingers, but spin dashes in between them work fine to finish those off. That isn't the bad part, though. The bad part is what comes next. Instead of staying down, Robotnik gets right back up, but without the fingers, and he chases Sonic down the robot. He uses puffs of fire, and the goal is to hit the nose so its chest opens and he can whittle away at the glass protecting the Master Emerald, which is now being used to power this thing. Every time you hit it, though, it brings out a laser. This is the part that ended up getting me. After 10 or so tries, I finally got it down, but keep in mind after every death I had to break those fingers again, and 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 again. They just started to get super repetitive, and I wasn't having fun at all. You also have to keep moving or else you'll fall down off this platform, which is more of an annoyance than anything. After his robot explodes, Robotnik takes off with the Master Emerald in a desperate attempt to keep it, and this time it actually works, letting him take off in it with the blue Death Egg robot, hell yeah! This is Doomsday Zone, a zone exclusive to the people that got the Chaos/Super Emeralds. This is exactly why I didn't grab the Super Emeralds. You still get Doomsday Zone with no changes and you don't have to have sore eyes. The fight itself is so badass, it's insane. It starts off with Super Sonic flying through space collecting rings, making a desperate attempt to catch up to him before he runs out of rings. Once he catches up, it starts throwing homing missiles at Super Sonic and he brings them right back. There's a pretty nice back and forth of this until the shell breaks in. The Death Egg robot from Sonic 2 makes a return, holding the Master Emerald for dear life. This phase is very brute force oriented. Pretty much all you do is gotta hit his middle spot a few times before he explodes. Once he does, the Master Emerald is dropped for Super Sonic to take. Once again, falling from the sky like in Sonic 2, and Tails catching him in the tornado. But now with this giant emerald. Before doing anything else, they deliver it back to its rightful owner. Not Knuckles, but the island itself. With the emerald back, Angel Island rises once more. Without even stopping for a goodbye, Sonic and Tails set off on the tornado again and head to whatever adventure awaits them next. This is the true classic Sonic ending. It's a very simple story, but I'll be damned if I ever say it's bad. For what they are, Sonic 1, 2, 3, and Knuckles will always be appreciated for what they accomplished by most Sonic fans. With that being said, I think it's definitely fair to say these games are far from perfect. Sonic 1 has boring level design and 3-act zones, Sonic 2 starts to dip after a bit, and Sonic 3 has a couple of bad acts thrown in there. But all of these complaints hardly matter when you're sitting there playing these games without a critical eye involved. Kicking back with Sonic 2 on a Friday night feels way better than trying to see what you like in each part of the game. That's not to say looking at them critically is bad either. It can be fun to dissect something in a game and figure out why it's enjoyable or not to you. No matter if you've been a fan since the beginning, grew up with Adventure, or played the Boost games to death, we all have something in common. Liking Sonic the Hedgehog. Wait, no, I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it!